Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Julie from Living Large on Lifetime, and today it's time for another Wednesday Weekly. I'm super excited about the topic this week because it's all about eating out. Yes, I happen to love eating out. It's one of my favorite pastimes. I see it not only as nourishment, but also relaxation and enjoyment. I love to eat out. I love to go and not have to worry about food prep, dishes, cleanup. I just love to eat out, and I'm the kind of person, I don't generally eat a lot of fast food. When I eat out, I like to go to a full service restaurant. I like to sit down and have someone wait on me. I like the whole ambiance of the restaurant, and I just like to eat and enjoy and relax. And I know a lot of you guys do too. Funny thing about eating out, it has so many challenges. I know we all love to eat out, but what about the challenges? Remember, with WW Freestyle, everything is on the menu. You can literally have whatever you want. You just have to find a way to balance it within your daily points, your weekly points. Balance. It's all about balance. I love the fact that with WW Freestyle, you can still have all of the same things that you love, probably just in smaller quantities. So yes, we can still eat out, and we can still eat out at our favorite restaurants, and we can still eat our favorite foods, but we just have to learn how to balance it. So what exactly is it that's so challenging about eating out? What about, for starters, the portion sizes? We are so conditioned in the United States to believe that we need a ginormous amount of food, and it's just simply not true. I know that for myself, when I go to a restaurant and I pay X amount of dollars for a meal, I expect to have a very full plate delivered to me. If I don't get a full plate of food, I feel like I'm being ripped off for the price. I don't know if this is the way I was raised, or just the fact that I've been so conditioned over the last 20 years or so to expect very large portions. So that's one challenge that we can face when we go out to eat, whether it be fast food or a regular restaurant meal. Most portion sizes are huge unless you go to a very, very fancy upscale restaurant, and then you do pay a lot for a little tiny amount of food. So yeah, portion size is a challenge. What about the bread basket? I love bread. You guys love bread. Carbs. When you hit the restaurant and you're starving and that bread basket is the first thing that comes out, that can be very challenging. How to say no to that? Do you need to say no? It's up to you. What about peer pressure? Studies have shown that whoever we eat with, we tend to emulate the way that they eat. So depending on who you tend to go out to eat with, if they eat fast, you're probably going to eat faster. If they tend to eat fattier foods, you're probably going to eat fattier foods. There's a lot to be said about peer pressure and eating out. It's a real thing, even though it's probably a little bit subconscious, unless someone's actually literally saying to you, oh, have a piece of cake. You've lost enough weight, you can have a piece of cake and enjoy it. A lot of times we do have friends who are food pushers or family, and that can be challenging as well. What about the ingredients or the preparation of the food? Both very challenging. When you go out to eat at a restaurant, you're never going to know exactly what is in the food. It's impossible unless you're preparing it yourself. You don't know exactly what's in the food. So there could be some mystery ingredients that are causing the points value to be higher. Also, the preparation is maybe not necessarily the way that you would prefer to have it. Maybe it's deep fried when you want it steamed. So those are some things to look out for when we eat out. The dessert and the alcohol are always challenging. These are things that we don't typically have when we eat a meal at home. Number one, we generally probably eat smaller portions, and number two, we generally don't have alcohol or dessert at every meal. However, when we go out to eat, we feel like we deserve to have that, like it's a celebration, which it very well could be, but if you go out to eat often, like 2 to 3 times a week, you cannot treat every meal out as a celebration. It's not. It's another Wednesday eating at a restaurant, right? So you just have to really be careful to balance it. You can still eat and enjoy in a restaurant. So let's tackle some of these challenges. I am super huge on strategy. I love having a strategy whenever I go out to eat, and sometimes the strategies change depending on the restaurant, depending on who I'm with, or depending on what I know the food or the menu is going to look like. So I always have some sort of strategy. My first and best strategy, and the one I will always tell people first and foremost, is to look at the menu before you go. Almost always when you go to eat at a restaurant, you pretty much know where you're going, right? Whether someone else has decided on the restaurant or you have, you pretty much always know ahead of time where you're going to be dining. If you don't know, ask or make a decision so that you know where you're going to be eating. Then you can look up the menu online. Most restaurants do have a menu online. They don't necessarily have the nutrition information. That's not what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for the actual menu so that I can choose 2 or 3 options that look like they might be within my points range and things that actually sound good to me at the moment. Now, why do I choose 2 or 3 items? Say I want the salmon salad, and I know I want the salmon salad because that's what I always get at this restaurant and I love it and it's within my points budget. But wait! What if they're out of salmon that day and you haven't researched the other options and you just bam give into the pasta Alfredo because there's no salmon? So it's always good to have a backup or 2 just in case they run out of what it is that you really want. So what I do when I look at the menu is I first scan it to see what kind of items are actually kind of in my price range, my points price range. And then a lot of times it will be a salad. I'll choose a salad with some protein and then maybe an entree. And then if all else fails, maybe I'll choose a lower calorie appetizer. But I do always choose at least 2 items so that I know I have some choices going in. So I first look for things that sound good and sound like they might be within my points range. Then I actually go to my tracker or my calculator. A lot of restaurants are actually in the tracker. Awesome! If you go to the very bottom of the My Day page, at the very bottom is a little link called restaurants. You can actually look up the restaurant by name, and those will be a lot of the chain restaurants, or you can look up the restaurant food by how many points you have left to spend. I think that's genius, especially if you're on the run, like on a road trip or something, and you know you've got 5 points left to spend for dinner. You can look up a restaurant based on points and make your decision that way. So once I've looked at the menu online, then I go to the restaurant tracker and see if this particular restaurant has their items listed in the tracker. If they do, it's a piece of cake. I put in the option that I want to have, and I'll usually pre-track at least 2 to 3 meals. Once I get to the restaurant and I actually order and decide what I'm going to have, then I'll delete the meals that I'm not going to eat. But it's easiest just to pre-track them while you're doing your research, get an idea of how many points everything is, get it in the tracker, and then get it in your mind that this is what you're going to choose. Also, don't forget, you should probably order first, because if you wait and let everyone go around the table and order, you're gonna be swayed. You're gonna want the Alfredo or the meatloaf or whatever somebody else is having. It's easier to stick to what you've decided if you just order first without listening to everybody else. So number 1, do your research online, check out the menu first. Then check out your tracker. Try to track the meals as close as possible if they aren't actually in the tracker by restaurant. Otherwise, track 2 to 3 meals. Leave them in there for your meal session. If you're going to dinner tonight, leave those 2 to 3 dinner options in the tracker until you get there, until you order, and then you can delete the items that you're not going to be eating. So that's my top strategy for eating out. I almost always, number 1, need to know where I'm going. Number 2, need to look at the menu. And it helps so much. It really takes away all of the thinking once I get to the restaurant. I already know what I'm having. A lot of times I won't even look at the menu when I'm at the restaurant because I don't want to look at all the other options. I don't want to have my mind changed. I don't want to be tempted. I just want to go with what I already know sounds good and what will work for me. So that is my first and foremost, most important tip for eating out. Okay, what about portion sizes? Portion sizes are big. I actually, when I go to a restaurant, I like to eat everything that is served to me because I love food. So what I will do is just make sure that I have it in my points budget, enough points to cover the entire meal. That is me. Sometimes I'll leave some on my plate. I very rarely take leftovers home, but I plan to eat whatever is served to me. Another option is if you don't want to eat the entire portion, because again, especially pasta portion sizes seem to be huge in restaurants. If you don't want to eat the whole thing, one very good option you can do is, as you're ordering your meal, ask the waiter or waitress to put half of it in a to-go box when they bring it out to you. Or even just bring the to-go box. They will not have a problem with it. They are there to serve us and make us happy. It's a very simple request. Ask very nicely, please can you put half of my meal in a to-go box before you bring it out? And they'll be happy to do that. So that's one way to deal with the huge portion sizes. Also, what about sharing? I used to share with Eddie all the time. And it's a great way to cut down on the cost and also on portion sizes. I got to a point where I was so, as I've gone through WW, my actual taste buds have changed. So I started wanting different things to eat than what he wanted. He's more like meat and potatoes. I'm like, I want a salad and protein. So at that point, we actually stopped sharing meals. But if you are eating with someone, a friend or a family member or a spouse who enjoys the same kind of food, share the meal. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of places will actually bring you an extra plate and make it easy. I know at Mimi's Cafe, they actually split the meal in the back for you, and you get larger portion sizes if you split a meal. Go figure. So that kind of defeats the purpose, but they're very generous at Mimi's if you want to share. So those are some ways we can deal with the portion sizes. Take some home. If you're worried that you're going to eat it in the middle of the night because it was so good, you're going to eat it when you don't really want it, don't take it home. Just leave it. That's okay too. I like to allow myself, if I tell myself I'm trying to eat less, here's what I do. I tell myself I'm gonna eat less, but I'm gonna allow myself to have more if I am dissatisfied or need more. So I'm going to eat half of the meal, but when I get home, if I get home and I'm still dissatisfied and still hungry, I'm gonna allow myself to eat the other half. So just sometimes giving myself permission to eat a smaller amount lets me eat the smaller amount. I may have the rest later, I may not. But sometimes just the permission is everything. I'm gonna start with a small amount, but I'm giving myself permission to have more later if I want it. So those are some things we can do for portion size. What about the bread basket? The problem with the bread basket, you can have a piece of bread. Who stops at one piece? I had 2 pieces the other day. I really don't stop at 1 piece. You can have the bread, okay? You can have whatever you want, just count it. The problem that I have with the bread is that you usually arrive at the restaurant literally starving. I do this because I'm always trying to, I mean, it makes perfect sense in your mind to not eat if you're going out to eat, right? The backfire is when you get to the restaurant and you're so hungry that you eat everything that's there, including the bread basket, right away. So one way you can deter yourself from diving into the bread basket or the tortilla chips with salsa is to actually eat before you leave the house. That sounds super counterintuitive, but what we're looking for is preemptive eating, prevention eating. Just a little bit, just have a little snack, have a little something before you leave the house. It's not uncommon here in California to, number 1, be on the freeway for an hour driving to the restaurant. Number 2, waiting in line for a table for another 40 minutes. And then number 3, once you order and they actually bring the food out, it could literally be 2 hours since you left the house before you actually get to eat. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a small snack before you leave the house. Something with protein is great because it fills you up just enough, like a hard-boiled egg, a piece of cheese, just something in your stomach so you're not absolutely dying. I really like apples because I feel like apples are one of the most filling fruits because of all the fiber. So a lot of times I'll have a small apple before I leave the house, and that way when I get to the restaurant, I'm still hungry and I'm still able to enjoy my meal, but I'm not starving. So that really helps a lot. Preemptive eating, prevention. What about, let's talk about peer pressure. I already talked about how you should probably order your meal first. That's gonna hopefully avoid you listening to everybody's meal and then deciding, okay, you know what, I know I shouldn't, but I'm gonna have this. What about when someone is telling you or offering you or wanting you to eat something that you don't want. There's no way around that, you guys. You just have to know what you want, know where your journey is taking you. What are your goals for yourself, your body? Know your goals and be strong enough and firm enough in your own self-confidence to just say no. No, thank you. I really don't feel like dessert tonight. Thanks anyway. I really don't want a margarita. Thank you though. I'll just have water. You know, it's be strong, be confident. You're doing this for you. You're not eating out for someone else. Yes, we're going to enjoy each other's company, but I don't have to eat what you're telling me to eat because this is my body and I'm gonna treat it the way that I think is best for my body. So peer pressure can be a little daunting, but just know yourself, know your goals, and be super strong and self-confident in what you want, okay? Your friends are not going to be mad at you if you don't share the cake with them. Okay, what about the ingredients and the preparation? Preparation is actually easy to get around because at most restaurants you can request to have an item prepared the way that you want it. I've been to a restaurant where they serve fish and vegetables and I've been able to get it, instead of sauteed in butter, I get it steamed. You can ask for a roasted chicken instead of deep fried. There's a lot of modifications that you can make to a menu, and first of all, it doesn't hurt to ask. Again, do it nicely, do it politely, but those servers are here for us. They are serving us. We are paying for this meal, so we should get what we came for and the way we want it prepared. I don't mean going to McDonald's and asking if they can steam the burger, you know, within reason, guys, within reason. But when you go to a restaurant, a lot of times they will prepare the food the way that you need it prepared. Ask them to leave the sauces off if you don't want the sauce. Every time I get a salad in a restaurant now, I always get it without any dressing because most restaurant salads have so many different flavorful ingredients that I don't need the dressing. You can also ask for if the vegetable or if the sides are like mashed potatoes or macaroni and cheese, you can ask to sub a vegetable side or a fruit. Sometimes you can order fruit in place of dessert. Just think about what it is you really want to have and how you can make that menu work for you, and then politely ask your server, because they will bend over backwards a lot to make the food the way that you want it, especially in this day and age with all the allergies and celiac disease, and people are very particular, and it's not a bad thing. Just be polite. The ingredients can be tricky because you don't know. I had duck confit risotto the other day. What the heck is in that? It's rice and duck, and it had cranberries, and good Lord, who knows what else. That was a challenging one to track, and I actually didn't track that. But here's what you do. Find something in the tracker that very closely matches what you're eating. I would have looked up, had I been tracking, I would have looked up risotto. I would have tracked however much risotto I had, and then I maybe, if I was really trying to be super accurate, I maybe would have looked up duck and then added maybe 2 ounces to complete the duck confit risotto. So it's possible. You just have to track something that's as close to what you're eating as possible. A lot of times when you look up a full entree dish in the tracker, like beef broccoli, it'll be there. It's not gonna be exact because all of these Chinese restaurants vary anyway, but track what you can. We're just looking for a good estimate here so that you know kind of where you stand as far as points for the day. We want to know kind of an estimate of what is actually in the dish, how many points are actually in the dish. Now, if you can't find the entire dish, like if you have a shrimp broccoli stir fry and that doesn't pop up in the tracker, you can then track each item separately. So in that case, I would track sauteed vegetables, or I would track vegetables, and then I would track a tablespoon of oil, and then I would track 4 ounces of shrimp, steamed shrimp. So you can either track your meal as a whole, like chicken fried steak, track it as a whole, or you can pick it apart and track each item individually. Baked potato, sour cream, butter, prime rib, bread, sourdough bread. I find it, I actually do it both ways. I feel like it's more accurate if I break the meal apart and track everything separately. But sometimes there can be so much in a dish that that's impossible, and you don't want to spend your time tracking 20 ingredients in one dish. So just do whatever's easiest for you and get as close as you can to a number that feels right for you. We're really just estimating, and we need to know, we need a number for the tracker. So the best thing to do is just get as close as you can. What about the dessert and the alcohol? It can be hard to say no, especially if you're in that mentality where I'm going out to eat, I deserve dessert. I deserve to have a cocktail before dinner. First of all, yeah, we do deserve that, you know, maybe not every day, maybe not every meal out, but a lot of the times when we do go out, it is a special occasion. One of my tactics is that I will either have the beverage or I'll have the dessert, but probably not both. Last weekend when I went out, I had dessert. I had no beverages. I had water. There again, it's just balance. It's deciding what you want that's gonna make you happy and not feel deprived, and then finding a way to balance that within your points budget. If I actually wanted the drink, first of all, I'd never have just one drink. So I would probably have 2 to 3 drinks, and then I would not have dessert. It's balance. In fact, if I was having 2 to 3 drinks, I probably wouldn't have the bread and I wouldn't have dessert either. But I would enjoy my drinks, I would enjoy my entree, and just enjoy the restaurant and the ambiance. It's all about compromise. You can have it all, just not all at once. So another way, obviously, to deal with the dessert dilemma is to share the dessert. A lot of times when I go out to eat with people, we will share one dessert between 3 to 4 people, or one dessert between 2 people, whatever. It helps reduce the number of points that you're ingesting to actually share the dessert. So those, you guys, are actually my best tips for eating out. I know there are so many other challenges with eating out, things that we didn't even touch. If you have a specific eating out question that you would like to ask me, please ask down below in the comments section. I would be happy to give you my tips. I love to eat out, and I eat out as often as I can, and I just make it work. You can totally eat out on this WW lifestyle and still lose weight. So if you have a 100% awesome eating out tip that I didn't touch on, please let me know down below, because I need all the strategies I can get as well. So the recipe, the recipe on the back of the weekly today is flourless mini chocolate cakes with ganache. Those look amazing. So I will put the recipe for those in the description box for you guys. Again, if you have any tips for me on eating out or for the others, please let me know. We can start a discussion down below. If you have any questions for me, ask down below and I would be happy to answer. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's Wednesday Weekly. I love this topic. I love it. I hope you guys do too. And I will see you all next week. Bye.